Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to North Shore Live Cooper's Corner. We're live this evening. This is May the 28th, 2014. This is the last of the 4 installments for the month of May for the veterans, because I wanted to salute the veterans for the month of May because of Memorial Day being there. And I hope you all had a wonderful Memorial Day. And I hope that you did connect with some veterans. Hope that you did go to some of the parties that they had. We are celebrating the human spirit, the celebration of Memorial Day. Those that gave the ultimate, their lives for freedom, and those that were very fortunate to come back from whatever theater of war they were in. And I hope that we can all appreciate the fact that the flag flies high and free because of those who gave the ultimate, their life. This evening's guest, I'm very happy to have Steve Romaki, and he is the senior supervisor for therapy, actually a clinical licensed social worker for veterans, whether active or returning, to help separate the situations and get them back to their prior state before leaving for overseas, which is a very difficult because they have to, military has to pump you up to be able to go and fight for your country or help a country. And then when you come back, how is it exactly that you are able to find your position in society after being away for however many tours that you have been on in whatever country you have been in? So if you have someone in your family, or you know a neighbor or someone, a friend, who is going through some kind of situation, distress, upset, this gentleman is such a wonderful young man, and he'll be able to explain to us the courses of what really transpires with a veteran after returning, going to and returning from theater of war. And he's located right here in Lake County. And I want to remind everyone that we are on YouTube. So it should be down here someplace. We'll get it to you shortly, but we are on YouTube, and you can go to YouTube and you'll see Steve on there, and you'll see Jim Dolan on there. There we go. Here it is on YouTube. And we'll see the traumatic brain injury with Felicia Descard, and there are informational situations that you need to sit and watch and listen. Sometimes it just gets by you, but if you are a veteran, know of a veteran, I would suggest you listen to this, watch this, and if we are helpful to you, I am so happy. And if you have any questions, please contact me. Here at the studio, it's Bev, there we go, bev.cooperscorner@yahoo.com. And if you would like to tell your story or come on the air, we'd be delighted to have you, because the public really needs to know that you have been overseas, you have fought a fight, you have won a war, you've come back to tell the tale, and you need to express your feelings regarding whatever branch of service you were in, Marines, Navy, Air Force, or Army, of course. They're the ground troops. So without any further ado, my introduction to a very wonderful gentleman, Steve Romaki, and thank you very much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. Ooh, nice warm hands.
And thank you for calling me a young man. That was very nice.
Hey, I fit in your slot here, kid.
Right.
So really, you do a great service for our veterans, and I'm so happy that you took time to come to the program, and you'll be able to explain that to our viewers.
Great. Well, we really appreciate the opportunity to get the word out. We're always trying to think of the next thing to do to make sure that veterans, active duty military veterans, their family members, their significant others are all aware that we're here. So if they choose to seek us out and make a request of us, we'd be honored to try to be of service to them.
Great.
And our program, I may mention, is a time-limited, federally funded program through a department called Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Association. And the program is administered through the Lake County Health Department. Mm-hmm. And our charge is to be of service to those that I already mentioned in whatever way that they might need. So we have different kinds of staff available, from what we call peer specialists, who are trained and certified to be supportive and outreaching to the veterans and their family members to develop relationships, to be of assistance in whatever the need might be. We have case managers who deal with specific requests, be it for a need for housing, health care, emergency financial assistance, support in trying to find a way to navigate the Veterans Administration. There are a lot of veterans we discover who are actually eligible for services from the VA, but for whatever reasons they have not.
Oh, they've not
they've been
taken advantage of it.
Right.
Oh,
and
wow.
so if we try to assist in that navigation and advocate on their behalf to the Veterans Administration. But we're also charged to provide services to all veterans and to all active duty military. If you're a veteran, it doesn't matter what type of discharge you may have. Like the VA has certain stipulations and criteria of who they're obligated to serve and who they do not serve. We are not bound by those same criteria. If you've served your country, be it for a day or be it for 20 years, for whatever reasons you did not receive an honorable discharge, those things do not exclude you from service from
so
our
you're still
organization.
You're viable
Right.
for service. That's good.
And our services are also available to the family members, and our definition of family is broad. If you're a significant other, a girlfriend, a boyfriend of a veteran, we would honor that relationship and be of service to you if you request something from us. And then we also, myself and one other person on our staff, are psychotherapists, and we provide individual, marital, group counseling for most any kind of problem or issue you might think of. And all of our services are free of charge to anyone. So we have eliminated many of the typical boundaries that prevent people from accessing service. They can't afford it, up to and including, in some instances, if you have a transportation problem, we have the means to come to your home and pick you up to bring you to our office for your services. And so we welcome any and all people to please
seek you out.
Access the service.
Yeah.
What we find, as we have been engaged in this project, is that we encounter what we sometimes call the military culture, which has kind of trained people to think that there's something negative or wrong or an implication that you're somehow a problem if you ask for help. And so
well, you're not macho, you're not strong, you're not
right.
They tell you to name, rank, and serial number, but they never tell you that when you come home you can, release that, that restraint and tell them that there's a problem that you're having,
Correct.
and you need to talk with someone.
Well, and that is one of our challenges, is we invite people to come in using the word conversation. It's like we don't need to use those words that tend to push people away. Nobody wants to have, be identified as having a problem, or to be diagnosed with a mental health diagnosis.
Well, if they make that consideration called a label, but
Correct.
But conversation is good, but you have to know what you're dealing with. So
Right.
you need to make some stipulation on there what the problem is.
Right, and I realize that we operate on different levels in terms of our attempts to engage the population that we're attempting to serve. We have what we call Cup of Joes. We have 3 of them that operate weekly in Lake County. And it's a very informal gathering of veterans at certain coffee shops in Lake County at certain days, where we'll pay for the coffee, just come on in at a certain time, sit down, meet, and have conversation with other veterans. Sometimes as that occur, and one of us is typically at those meetings as well. So we have an opportunity to engage in a relationship and describe who we are and what we do. So
Now, is this, I know, let me just hold this up so our viewers can see that. Here it's called a Cup of Joe. There we go, Cup of Joe. And this is for vets, and here's some information on here I'm going to read off to you. So let me just do that right now. VETS, in this instance, stands for Various Experiences to Share, so VETS, and a free Cup of Joe. It says a time for veterans and service members to gather for conversation and whatever else you would like. And this goes every Wednesday, which would be like tonight or today, from 5 to 7, in Lake Villa. Every Wednesday, 5 to 7, Lake Villa. Julie's Coffee, and that's at 216 North Milwaukee Avenue, Route 83, just north of Route 132 in Grand. That's every Wednesday. So there's somebody there
right.
tonight.
There's one going
Okay.
on as we speak. Right.
Then there's, tomorrow is Thursday, and there is two different locations and 2 different times every Thursday from 1 to 3 p.m. in Waukegan at the Veterans Assistance Commission, 20 South Martin Luther King Avenue. That's every Thursday, tomorrow, 1 to 3 p.m. in Waukegan, Veterans Assistance Commission, 20 South Martin Luther King Avenue. And then for the evening, if you can't make it in the afternoon, there is a 5 to 7 p.m. in Zion, 5 to 7 on Thursday evenings. It's called It's All Good Coffee and Espresso, 2780 Sheridan Road in Zion, Illinois. So there's one on Thursday afternoon from 1 to 3, and one Thursday evening from 5 to 7. So those are on Thursdays every week, Wednesdays and Thursdays, Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening. And it says it's sponsored by Lake and McHenry County Veterans and Family Services, Julie's Coffee, Veterans Assistance Commission of Lake County, and It's All Good Coffee and Espresso. And it's funded by the Lake County Veterans and Family Service Foundation. It says just show up. Just show up. If you need any further information, you can contact 847-346-5655. 377 VET6, I guess that's an S, or 847 377 8386. 847 377 8386. That's called A Cup of Joe, and there is that information, A Cup of Joe. And and that's all branches of the service.
Right.
Are there. So Marines get to talk to Marines, and Navy gets to talk to Navy, and Army and Air Force and...
Yes, and I'm happy to say that all eras are represented in those groups, from World War II veterans up to the current, Iran and Iraq,
do
Afghanistan veterans.
Do many show interest to talk, or they just want to be there at first to see and listen?
Well, we have a core group of what we would call regulars that come most of the time, and then we always welcome the next newcomer, of course.
Yeah.
And what they would say is that they just enjoy being together. And the topic of conversation can be everything from sharing similar stories of the military experience from the past, or current opinions about the politics
today,
or
yeah.
Sometimes us older folks might be talking about our various health conditions and how we're doing, and
you have to
how we're
speak for
being taken
yourself
care
on
of. But there's no agenda, and
No agenda.
there's no attempt to focus the conversation in any particular way. It's just
They feel comfortable.
just a social conversation.
And they don't have to pay for this?
No.
Is it just coffee? Is there cookies
the
or
coffee
something,
shops, certainly have more than the coffee that we provide, and
Okay.
they're certainly welcome to, we appreciate the support that the coffee shops give us, of course, and
Nice.
so we encourage them to, buy a donut or a sweet roll or
Okay.
something from them as well. But
That's all
the
right.
basic coffee is covered and is paid for by our foundation. So.
I want to just go over this one more time, because you say that your services handle the homeless, which is really scary, because these people, human beings, men and women, come back and they left their homes to go fight a war.
Right.
They've left the comfort of America to go fight in a foreign land, and then they come back and they find out they're homeless.
Exactly.
You've got linkage to benefits, which maybe they didn't know they had.
Well, in some cases that's true, and I was recently attending, it was called the Homeless Summit at the VA here in North Chicago, and I didn't count how many organizations were there, but there was a very large room filled with all kinds of different organizations who are dedicated to addressing the issue of the homeless in this area. And one could get the impression that the problem has been resolved, that if you're homeless, there's some place that you're going to be able to go. But on a fairly regular basis, we encounter situations with people who are in need of housing, and we are not able to connect them to a resource. So, if I can use this opportunity to put the call out, so to speak, is that we need help continually with trying to arrange housing for an individual or for a family. Be it on a temporary basis, whatever. That we certainly don't want anyone to have to sleep in their car or sleep, in a park somewhere.
So if there's someone watching, Steve, and they can help you
Absolutely.
with this, should they, now there was just a number down there, should they, there you go, should they contact you?
Absolutely, we would appreciate it. I mean, there's organizations, and we're quite adept at knowing a lot of the resources. There could be something out there that we're not yet aware of, but we have thought sometimes it's like if there's a landlord out there who is willing to extend, one of their apartments
That would be nice.
to a veteran, and perhaps, make that apartment affordable if someone isn't able to meet,
And
the rent, et
job
cetera.
opportunity would be wonderful as well.
Absolutely. That's the other big one, is that, there there is a need for veterans to be able to obtain employment, and that the employment area is not a specific charge of our grant, but we always try to link people to where those services exist. Now, the Illinois Department of Employment Securities has a specialized program to service veterans. Catholic Charities has just recently initiated a new veterans employment service, and if anyone's interested, we'd be happy to get them connected.
Oh, that's wonderful.
The gentleman who's running that program.
That's wonderful.
So we, more often than not, we are able to do something to improve the person's situation and get them linked. We try, to keep ourselves well informed of what services are available and what the criteria are, so that we don't send people to organizations needlessly, and then they get there and then they find out they don't qualify. So we try to match a person to a service that we have a reasonable assurance that they're going to be able to.
But veteran.
Yeah, veterans and their family members as well. So
now you've got you take care of grief and the loss of those who didn't make it home. Do spouses or children or siblings, do they connect with you?
Yes.
Or can they connect with you?
Yes. Both our program and there's another program with Lake County Health Department is specifically designed to service children. And, if we can see people as families or individuals, either way, and we can also link them to other services. Well, the other therapist and myself have been in this field for a long time. I have about 45 years working in mental health and addiction service. and so in a variety of different kinds of organizations, hospitals, schools, private practice, et cetera. And so we're adept at providing service for a wide spectrum of identified problems. We know, the ones that are commonly in the news these days, that are, troubling the veterans in terms of PTSD, substance abuse, an enormous suicide rate going on. There's various statistics, but in the general realm of 26 veterans a day are committing suicide in this country.
Terrible.
Isolation due to depression, domestic violence are the ones that we hear about quite often. And it's difficult to step forward. Sometimes I say the sidewalk to our front door is one of the longest sidewalks in the road for someone to, get to the point where they're able to pick up the telephone and make that phone call and say, I need help. But we will do everything we can to honor that request and respond quickly and provide a service that they're willing to receive.
Now, if someone's watching this and you'd like to help, what manner of assistance can they give to a veteran if they come to you and say, look, we'd like to help, how can we help? Is it just financial, or do you have to write a grant for it, or can they offer an apartment, or can they offer a car? What physical material can they offer?
Well, I would say yes to all of the items that you just articulated.
Yeah.
Yes. I know that the Veterans Assistance Commission asks for volunteers to do a variety of support services for them. We have in Lake County a Veterans Court who has, as a part of their staff, a position that they call mentors, which are typically veterans who kind of in a, I would say, like a big brother kind of way, will take on an assignment of being a support relationship to a veteran who's gotten himself or herself into difficulty with the law for one reason or another.
Okay.
And so,
I mean, these are people that understand, the judiciary that understands that these are veterans that have suffered some traumatic experience and perhaps cannot get themselves back on track, but would normally not be a burden to society or to the law enforcement.
Right.
Okay.
And you know, there's an opportunity to establish a helpful relationship, a positive role model. You know, there's an enormous you know, number of veterans who get into difficulty with the law while they're under the influence of a mood-altering substance, alcohol or drugs, and so they may, you know, be identified as truly having a substance abuse problem, and some of the mentors are in recovery themselves and can support, you know, the person getting to a point
so
where
like
they can
a
learn how to
one-on-one,
abstain. Yeah.
like a one-on-one
Right.
situation.
So we cover the map, so to speak, in terms of what we will try to respond to. So if it's a marital problem, substance abuse problem, depression problem, financial problem, et cetera.
Yeah,
you know,
Now, you've got in here a drop-in center. I didn't hear about that before.
the drop-in center is a part of our McHenry operation. We do not, we would like to, but we do not have a drop-in center in Lake County.
In
at
Lake
this time.
County.
That may be something that comes in the future, but right now we do not.
And you can, I don't know if you can, well, you teach them the computer access for resources, how to find job positions or homes, or, and is there any direct contact if you type in veterans, veterans for assistance or in need of assistance? What would you come up with? Do you come up with who you guys are in Lake and McHenry County?
Well, it would depend on how you put the phrase into the Google, but you would come up with an assortment of organizations that have specific programs to facilitate employment for veterans. But again, there, you know, it certainly is. We're living in an era where there's an awful lot of organizations. There are an awful lot of people who
they want to help.
Want to help.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of good intention out there. The good intention isn't always followed up with something of substance that's really going to work, and so we're learning and we're growing how to do that. But again, like I said, in terms of the housing situation, there's a lot of, or you see it on television all the time.
Absolutely.
There's all kinds of organizations that say they have specialized, you know, attention for veterans and want to hire veterans, but yet we know that there's a lot of veterans who aren't able to get connected to a job, get, you know, like, you know, the general population. You may have a job, but you're underemployed, you know, and so the issue is not resolved. We ought not think that, well, because we have all these organizations out there that, you know, the problem is solved. It's like,
No,
it is not. And so, you know, again, an appeal to any employer, any organization that's willing to, you know, offer
help,
service.
sure.
You know, if it's not us, we will connect that employer with other agencies that are.
Well, they can use you as a stepping stone. That's
right.
great.
Yeah.
That's
a
great.
big part of what we do is connecting people to other resources. It's not that we don't have the resource within our own program, but we have the knowledge of where those resources exist.
Can be
so
secured.
that's a large part of what we do.
Then you know, you've got a place to share the story, so maybe they don't want to get involved too deeply, the veterans, but they're willing to share their stories of what they've gone through.
Right.
And you said you go back to World War II,
Right.
so that would mean that some of your veterans are up in age, at least in their 70s
Middle
or
80s.
80s.
We have a gentleman that comes to our
90s.
coffee group, one of our coffee groups, who's a World War II veteran, and he's 91 years old.
91.
Yes.
Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah, and so, yes, and that's kind of referring to another program that we've offered to the public about 3 times so far, and we will be announcing the next series. We've had a couple of different titles for it. One is Managing the Memories of Combat. The other title that we've used is The Stories of War from Those Who Have Been There. And we do a press release. We get flyers out with any way that we can get the word out to the community. The program consists of a particular combat veteran sharing his or her story of what happened to them while in combat, and a discussion about how they manage the memory of that combat. And then it's open for question and answers and discussion. And encourage the public to participate in those forums when we have them, because we all need to listen to the stories.
Listen, we need to listen and learn from those that have been there.
Correct.
You can tell a story, but this is reality. This is real. And we just had Honor Flight on a week or so ago, and that was very interesting. The gentleman that was here, he served World War II. I think he said he was like 86 or 87 years old, and he was going to be down there at the Genesee Theater, and
yes,
it was very difficult to watch that picture. I just watched the trailer, and it was hard for me to. I didn't think I could even sit through the theater to be able to see that, and then you expect these warriors to come back home and to just be John Q. Public in a hardware store or in a paint shop, or I saw on cable the other night The Best Years of Our Life, and that was very hard to watch as well. That was amputees, and didn't think he belonged in society, was denying himself the love of a wife and family because he didn't want anybody to have sympathy for him. They don't have soda jerks anymore, but working in a soda fountain, so
Well, and our whole intention with this program is to try to support not just telling the story for the sake of telling the story, but to share the experience in ways of helping veterans learn from each other how to manage the memory in a constructive way, in a way that honors
not to keep bringing back the hurt.
Right. Well, what happens far too often is that memory is managed by some of our old-fashioned ideas of, well, just forget about it, don't talk about it, and what happens is, number one, you don't forget about it, you can't forget about it, and I've had many conversations with combat veterans who say, I do not want to forget about it.
No.
There's a significant part of my life. Don't tell me to forget about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But not knowing what to do with it, they resort to consuming alcohol.
Well, they're trying to drown the memory out.
Right,
They're trying to.
And like I said, in the culture, it's been so ingrained that you handle it by not talking about it, and we're really challenging that belief to say no, it's better if you do. And I myself have had several experiences with individual veterans who say, well, now that I've talked about it, I wonder why I was so against it. They've come over, so to speak, and had the experience of sharing who they are and what their concerns are and the issues they're struggling with, and they can recall the experiences, they can have the emotions of those experiences, and it doesn't mean that they're crazy or there's something wrong with them. They're processing.
This is human. Healing. This is a human feeling. This is you can't just not talk about it or put it at the back of your mind. And if someone has died in your arms, or your buddy next to you was shot, they're never coming back, and you have to be able to deal with that in a way that you can handle it. So if you want to be mums for a while, mum's the word, don't say anything, but it's going to eat you up inside. You need to talk and tell.
Right.
Tell the story.
Yeah.
Tell the story.
And I've been a mental health practitioner for a long time, and I'm critical of our field as well. It's like we need to find different ways to reach out and I'm liking the word conversations.
Conversation is
therapy.
good. That's
We're just
good.
having conversations.
Sure, conversation.
And you probably are going to see us making some announcements shortly that we're going to have conversations on a variety of the relevant topics.
That's
that
good.
Are, you know, and we just want you to come in and have a conversation, ask some questions, share ideas.
Sure.
You know, and just break that barrier that says you handle this by not talking about it and isolating yourself and drinking heavily or whatever.
Well, we just spoke about Paul before.
Yes, right.
And Paul got up and spoke, and he told what happened to him during Vietnam.
Correct, right.
I mean, that was a disaster. He went through terrible times.
Yes.
This emotional drain and strain on himself, his family, was terrible.
And there were other veterans that were present.
And they understood. They
And
understood
they were
him.
touched.
Yes.
And they came forward. And actually, one of the gentlemen that came to one of the times that Paul told his story has now told his story for us in other events. And so we're going to build on that. And, you know, we, the public, I mean, I'm a veteran from the Vietnam era, but I was not in Vietnam. And so I have a different perspective on it, but you know,
still military.
But I learn every day, you know, something new or something different from listening to veterans talk. You know, those that are willing to talk, I'm listening, and you know, I've, like I said, I've been in the field for a long time, but I learn something new very frequently that I would not have known or realized had I not been told by a veteran who's had that experience. A young veteran said to me recently, he said, well, you know, we talk about the difference between the Vietnam era and the current era in terms of how the nation is receiving the veterans back, you know, the military back home with some honor, with thank you for your service.
That's right.
And welcome
Thank you
home, which was not the case during the Vietnam time.
No.
You know, you didn't get a welcome home.
It was very bad.
And so it's stirring a lot of those kind of things. But one gentleman said to me, he said, yes, but when you say thank you for your service, then I feel this pride, and then this pride stops me from being able to admit that I'm having some struggles.
Well,
I would have never known that. Yes.
But you have to encourage them to say, this shouldn't stop you.
Yeah.
Because we're all human. We're all human, and this is what we had to do when we had to do it.
But see, we have to learn how to do that. There's not a universal response. If you say, you know, to someone in uniform, thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
They, you know, they may have different ways of reacting to that, or you say welcome home, and you know, I mean, I heard it over the Memorial Day weekend with all the shows on television. It said over and over again. You know, it's like the what we call sometimes the survivor's guilt. It's like the veteran who has survived and has come back home sometimes does not feel like they deserve to be honored. The honor belongs to those who have lost their lives in the combat, and so we also need to be sensitive that some of those standard phrases that we're now using come across differently to individuals, and we need to pay attention to how that's received
you know,
as well.
Something you could tell the veterans, I mean, when you gather with them, when you have a cup of joe or whatever, is that they should accept when people say thank you. Just accept it. Accept it and just say thank you, because they're trying to open dialogue with them, and they don't know what else to say except thank you for your service. That seems to be a polite way of saying, you know, I'd like to talk with you further, but I don't know how far I can go to ask you, you know, how was it? How did you handle it?
Right. And you know, I mean, what I do myself is I say, you know, I try to let them, I want to know. I'm here. I will listen. I will also respect how much you want to talk about. If you share some of your experience with me and then you say, that's all I want to say for now. It's like I will respect that too.
Sure.
It's like to just expect someone to open up and share the entirety of the experience, I think is too much sometimes too.
Well, and is there a length of time that you think that this would be appropriate, or, they're coming back now more, and so how are you going to deal with the ones from Afghanistan?
Well, personally, I believe we have some different kinds of challenges that we have yet to find out what that's going to be like. Because, again, going back to my military experience during the Vietnam War, it was more common, that someone was deployed once, twice perhaps, but rarely what you hear now is a more common experience that they're deployed 3, 4, 5, and 6 times.
That's true.
So I say to myself, it's like I can't comprehend or compute what that must be like, that you've been to combat that many times. You've been there, you came home, you went back, you came home again and back over. It's like, how are we going to connect to that experience, and how are we going to support an individual who's had that experience? And one of the ways that the human mind works is to shut it down. It's like,
it's safe.
Yeah. It's just like
safe.
you at least for a period of time, you block it. You don't access it with your conscious mind. But the myth is it's gone away. It's like what we now know is, no, it hasn't gone away. You mentioned Paul. Paul is talks about that very readily in terms of, wasn't us Vietnam era folks are in the retirement years, and so life is slowing down. There's more unstructured time, etc. And what's happening is a lot of the combat veterans from Vietnam are now experiencing this, what we would call sometimes PTSD, the symptoms, the nightmares, the memories, the recollections. And it's like, see, you might have tried to forget, but forgetting didn't work, and it's still there, and eventually it's going to come back to consciousness, and time will not make it go away.
Well, the post-traumatic stress, that's really horrific to live with, because that puts the person in a whole nother genre of life and thought, because when they try to put it away and they try to carry on with their life, they can't, because there's something going to trigger that and come out, and then they're going to become uncontrollable or depressed or suicidal or alcoholic or drug addicted or whatever. And so you're kind of teetering on a knife blade, because you're going to get cut one way or the other until you're able to form a bridge to be able to get over it. So that's where you guys come in, to be able to talk about the situation. And there's no shame intended to say thank you for your service, and they are entitled to that.
Right. Yeah.
If they're overseas, anything they've done, even if they're in the mess hall, thank you for your service, because you are feeding the multitude.
Yeah. Well, and I think we need to mention in this context as well that we're bound by the federal and state confidentiality laws, and so anyone who does come in and wants to sit down and share with us what their experiences are, we're obligated to treat that information confidentially. We cannot disclose that to anyone unless they give us a specific written permission to do so with whoever they might choose.
Well, so, I'm sure, when these guys come in to go have a cup of joe, they're not going to, be afraid to talk if that's the situation.
And in that situation, that's different. I mean, that's just that's social conversation, and so obviously we can't control what other, one veteran to another, what they might share with each other, or where it goes from there. But anything that's said to us in a formal therapy session is bound by those laws.
Informal. Okay, so it's pretty much like just one-on-one, if that be the case.
Could be one-on-one, could be family, could be a group.
Okay, but it's in a different location, not out in the public.
Yeah, we wouldn't be doing that in a public establishment like a coffee shop. That we wouldn't typically call therapy, but it's relationship, it's support, it's counseling.
Connection, connection. Yeah. I hope that you're finding that this is working, because it sounds like the work you're doing, Steve, is good and useful and needed, which is important. It's needed. You know, there's a difference between want and a need. A need is absolute, an absolute.
Well, I mean, I'm pleased to say we're busy, you know, that we have, you know.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm
but,
glad
you know,
that they're coming in for some assistance.
Yeah, but, you know, I don't, another way I feel like we still haven't touched the need, you know, that there's more people out there in their own isolation and in their own struggling without making a connection that would support and help them. And so, you know, we're always looking for the next way to make sure that you know, we can't make anybody come in against their will, and we're not trying to, but we want them to know we're here, okay? And at some moment, you know, even if it's not today, I want you to know we're here. And if something happens tomorrow or 3 months from now or a year from now,
you'll still be there.
You'll remember that we said we're here, and you'll pick up the, you know, you'll find us and come in and talk.
Is there a group, or are there some people that go maybe to the jail and ask how many in that situation are veterans? Because maybe they were having a meltdown or something and got arrested or whatever, but are they veterans, and are you willing to help them if they're in the jail?
Well, yeah, we're certainly willing. There's nothing specifically set up where we have access to a prisoner while they're in jail.
Yeah.
We are a part of the Veterans Court weekly staffings.
Okay.
We offer our support, our consultation, our willingness to take referrals, et cetera. One of our staff is also a mentor with the court. And so for those who access that particular court, we have an opportunity to make a connection with them. We have had some instances where we're perhaps working with a family member, or you know, we're aware of someone who's in jail and we're going to be there for them when they're released. You know, we're starting to work on their situation. So,
you know, for the court system to be aware that this is not just someone who, you know, got into a drunken stupor from a bar and went back and started tearing apart the house or whatever. This is someone who has been overseas, has seen active duty, has probably had to kill someone or many, or had his buddy shot or killed, or had his, you know, companion, she may have been a female, blown up with a, you know, a roadside bomb. And I wonder, just from my own curiosity, and maybe the viewers out there, how many of the court, per se, are veterans? Are we talking about military who have been overseas? Are we talking, because civil court here in Lake County or McHenry County, the gentlemen judges, I don't think have served time. I don't know. I mean, I'm served time. I meant not in jail, but I mean served, well, I don't know. Well, I mean served active military time. Right. So how would they understand the emotion or mental thought pattern of someone who has seen a problem and then went into a, you know, active role of something?
I'm happy to report that in Lake County we are honored with such a court.
You have?
Yeah, Chief Judge John Phillips sits on that court weekly, and I've had opportunity to meet with him, to have discussions with him about how our program can be of service to the court. And I have no doubts that this court, the state's attorney, the public defenders, the probation officer, the VA representatives, other social service agencies, addictions programs, et cetera, convene, and there is a tremendous compassion to be of service to the veterans who have encountered difficulties with the law. And if they're willing to participate and receive the support it is definitely there. And Judge Phillips will, I can't speak for him, of course, but I would say, I'm safe to say he will bend over backwards to give a veteran
It's
an
a veteran,
opportunity
absolutely.
to
It's a
rehabilitate
veteran. Yeah.
and to get his life, you know, on a good track. So,
I mean, you can't, you know, it's hard enough for the veteran to deal with this memory that he's carrying,
Right.
you know, and then come back and then, okay, so he messes up and, you know, gets involved with a drunken brawl or whatever the situation may be,
Right.
that he winds up there. But it wouldn't necessarily mean that he did this purposefully. He did this because something triggered a thought pattern that he needed release from, and so to go have 6 or 8 or 10 beers, whatever he thought would drown
Right.
the problem.
Well, one of my standard lines when I'm speaking with clients is, you know, we've all had, you know, not the best training on how to be a human being. You know? So,
We don't come with information books.
right, and we all, you know, had some struggles. And
Now
had to learn
here
how.
on screen is your website, www, and what is it? IM or LM?
LMVFS, Lake McHenry Veterans Family Services.
Okay, so if they
That's a website,
that's
right.
a website, they can connect with that. That's
Correct.
great.
And,
That's
there's a
great.
way on that website for people to request services if they want contact from
that's
us.
good. That's good. You
Also
know,
the phone
because
number, so.
some don't have computers. They go to the library, and the library doesn't exactly know what to do. But if you give them this www.LMVI or
VFS,
VFS,
yes.
Lake McHenry Veterans
Family
Services
right.
.org, you're going to see a variety of topics that perhaps one will suit you or all will suit you. All you need to do is push the button and it'll take you right there.
Yes, there's a very fluid posting of information on that website, posting of events coming up, information, links to other relevant websites, so it's a good resource.
Okay. So, well, you know, I think we pretty much covered the information. There's much more that we would need to do, and I certainly, you know, put the invitation out to you to welcome you back whenever
Would love to.
Whatever you feel, you know, you need to come back and say, hey, Bev, we just got this information. I need to put it out and get the public to know about it. That would be very, very informative, very good.
Yeah.
So,
And if I could just add,
Sure.
kind of as a closing, that, you know, we invite people to, you know, give us the next best idea, give us suggestions, what other kinds of ways can we either reach out or develop a program. We actually do have several programs that some of them we have developed and others we are intending to develop, anger management, substance abuse, abstinence strategy, etc. And so if people want us to provide a service, please ask us for it, and you know, we will put together the resource to offer education, therapy, counseling, everything.
You know, like when Felice was on last week and she talked about traumatic brain injury, people think, oh boy, don't bother with that person because that person's ill, you know, but they don't realize that this is a brain injury, traumatic brain injury that they may have suffered being overseas. We talked about veterans having that. And that they don't necessarily fit the qualifications of being mentally ill because the brain has been injured.
Yeah.
Like we talked about a broken arm. You can see the broken arm and you put it in a cast, but you can't see the injury that has caused the brain, and that's what causes the outbursts or whatever the veteran may have. So we need to take it very slowly and carefully with that situation.
Yeah.
But I know that you're going to be doing good work, and I'm going to hold your feet to the fire with Judge Philip, John Phillips. So If I hear back that there's been a problem and no one's giving the veteran the need that they do need for...
Well, there are stipulations with the court, I believe,
Yeah.
that, you know, like the VA, they have criteria
Yes,
of
of
who's
course.
eligible to be
Yeah.
serviced by that court. So, you know...
Well,
there
we
would be other
we
remedies,
would
yeah.
like to congratulate the court on what they do, but we also need to know that there are new things happening every day, and that they need to be able to be compassionate, have understanding, and like you said, to bend over backwards. That's not easy for a veteran to do, because they've been so regimentated. You know, you went through
Oh, sure,
military,
right.
so they know they have to do
Well,
with it.
and it's not about, you know, letting somebody off the hook, so to speak. It's about you have to be accountable and held responsible.
Sure.
And also you can be helped. You know,
Helped.
so you're gonna
Yes.
you're gonna experience a consequence for what you've done, and you know, like we always talk about that in the addiction treatment world.
Yeah.
It's like the worst thing you can do for a person who's struggling with an addiction is to keep letting them off the hook. You have to
Yeah.
hold them accountable, and you know, offer the support and the education and the counseling that
Well,
is
we've
going
got to be able to
assist.
see some type of change, and if you're, you know, a person with compassion, you'll understand that,
Right.
you know, unless you're able to deal with having someone die in your arms and having their blood on your hands and having to live that over and over, there's got to be some understanding with that.
Right.
Well, we only have a very short amount of time. I want to thank you so much. My hands are a little chilly. It's, I don't, and yours are still warm.
Yes.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I want to thank you so much, Steve, for coming. Steve Romacki, who came on the program this evening to talk about service for the veterans, therapy. And one more note, we'd like to mention about the passing, the unfortunate, untimely passing of one of our staff, our crew, Ken Wisnarski. There we go. It was a wonderful, wonderful gentleman. Came and helped us on our program. We at North Shore Live, Cooper's Corner, will miss him unbelievably. Just passed away the other day, and we send our condolences and our sympathies to Evie, his daughter, and I don't know what else to say, but we're going to always remember Ken and his wonderful service that he provided for us here at the studio. Always helpful, always wonderful, always kindly, a very wonderful gentleman. No words can express his kindness, his contribution, his humanity, and we want to always remember Ken, and we thank you for allowing us to mention that. And thank you for watching North Shore Live, Cooper's Corner. Have a pleasant evening, a very safe week. We'll see you next week, and hope all goes well for the month of June, and we can get some nice warm weather. Remember, see us on YouTube. We're looking forward to having you see us there. And you can see Steve there too. Okay, have a pleasant evening. Thank you for watching.